was just finding that thing that really got under my skin.
Which was?
Which was rubbish.
This week in the Reme Show, Genia Mineeva, a fashion entrepreneur who started as a journalist before she had a change of heart.
I want to be out there, making a difference. I want to be changing things out there rather than telling stories about other people changing the world.
Things.
Genia had an exciting career path from empowering social entrepreneurs to taking on climate change with her own award-winning brand.
There's enough stuff in the world to create all the furniture, all the clothing, everything that we need many times over. So why not reuse it?
We discuss how Genia pursued her passion despite the challenges of family and career. Please subscribe to the Reme Show wherever you're watching or listening.
Genia Mineeva!
It's so nice.
So nice. So amazing to have you in my podcast. It's so fantastic that you happen to be in Tbilisi.
We're doing it.
Yes, I'm so excited to have this opportunity to talk to you, to talk about your amazing successes in what you've done. We are friends going back to many years when we used to work for the BBC.
Very bonding night shifts.
Bonding
The BBC.
night shifts.
Like,
in
it's just, yeah.
very dark, kind of no sunshine Moscow. But that was a long time ago. And since then, since your time at the BBC, you moved to London, you're working in London, you're now the founder of Bean. Mm-hmm. Bean
Surprise,
London. Surprise, surprise. Well, let's, shall we start from the latest? Like, shall we talk about Bean or shall we talk about your, briefly, tell me
where we left 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Exactly, exactly.
So you know what? I always had a bit of a problem with journalism. Well, me in journalism specifically, because I think I was one of those journalists, unfortunate, who didn't really get any kick out of being heard or being seen. And I think this is part of like the enjoyment of broadcast media. Like you need to enjoy being on air, right? Telling the story bit. Whereas I was there thinking, I was live on air thinking, actually, instead of telling people stories, I want to be out there making a difference. I want to be changing things out there rather than telling stories about other people changing the world. So, and that was going through my head for years because I was at the BBC for quite a long time, for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And that was me going, I actually think the real impact is elsewhere. So I then tried a bunch of international NGOs. I worked for the UN. So kind of in comms roles. So I went from news to communications, which is quite a predictable career path. I think a lot of journalists go into comms roles. Mm-hmm. But working for NGOs, I was thinking, your organization is trying to solve a problem, right? Your charity, the charity you work for, is normally based around a problem. But a lot of the attention and a lot of time is spent fundraising. It's so distracting. Like I think 80% of my time
Was fundraising.
was fundraising.
Is it kind of, is it the bureaucracy or is it like networking, meeting
It
people?
depends on the organization. So some charities do a lot of kind of grant applications, right? And that can be quite bureaucratic. Others do lots of events and then it's like a non-stop event after event after event, or like corporate sponsorships. So, and at a certain point, I sat on like multiple organizing committees of like social enterprise incubators, a bunch of charities. Mm-hmm. Any charity is in this constant, almost like a race to raise the money to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. So to me, the idea of social entrepreneurship, where instead of raising money elsewhere to solve a problem, you build a business around a problem and then it kind of funds itself. I met this incredible Nobel Prize winner from Bangladesh called Muhammad Yunus at multiple events. And he's an absolutely incredible person. And he's thought to have coined the term of social entrepreneurship.
And he became the Nobel laureate for what?
for actually starting this beautiful organization that gave microloans to women entrepreneurs in Bangladesh. And I heard him speak at a number of events, and this idea of a social enterprise, that you can actually create a business around solving a problem, really resonated, especially because I just come from a charity background. I was like, this is maybe a good combination, because if you look at business, most businesses in the world are purely driven by profit. To be honest, right? Like the motivational structure of everyone from the very top to the very bottom is how much money we're making, how much profit we're making. And that in kind of the current environment also didn't seem right to me. It's like, so the idea of building a business around a problem that could kind of fund itself, that really resonated. And it was just a matter of, I guess, time and maturity. And it was just finding that thing that really got under my skin,
Which was?
which was rubbish. No, but it was like finding that thing that got me really, really angry, and really like I just could not do anything about it. That's where I got to that point. So I was at the time working at change.org, the international open platform for campaigning, and like it was such a great job. Like I loved my job. I was looking after Europe, I was looking after crisis comms. Like it's a great job working with activists, really grassroots activists around the world.
Like, can you give an example? Like,
So online petitions, so anyone can start any campaign and build the momentum around that problem. You don't have to be an organization. You can be rejon, right? And you're like, I want to campaign for recycling in my area. So kind of how can you spread the word around and gain momentum, and you support them, right? Like media contact, etc. Anyway, so I was working there, and it was a great job. I had like stable. I was very well paid. It was really meaningful. My girls were quite young at the time, and then I watched a film about waste and totally ruined my career. It was a documentary. It was a BBC documentary about how much waste we're all creating.
what year was that?
That was, I think it is maybe 7 years ago.
What was so memorable for you in this film? Like, what is it that moved you?
Yeah, it was quite UK focused. I actually don't remember the details of the documentary anymore.
That's fine.
But it had the most profound effect on my life.
Right.
It was just about the amount of stuff. It's like not only the packaging, which is quite obvious, right? It's on the surface. But one of the stories was about coffee cups. The takeaway coffee when you buy that coffee cup.
Of course.
So easy product, like simple product. We use it. All of us use it quite often. But I didn't know that there's polyethylene lining on the inside, and that makes them absolutely impossible to recycle. So we all think that we're good girls and boys. We put this into recycling bin, thinking, we did our, we did job done. Yeah, our bit is done. They can't be recycled
Because it's plastic.
because it's 2 layers, and someone has to separate them, and separating them is really expensive and nearly impossible.
Cardboard from plastic.
Yeah, exactly. So those kind of things, and I was like, whoa, there must be loads of those things, and I just started looking into what kind of stuff we throw away. And my idea was, can I tell this story of that stuff we throw away through turning it into something beautiful? Like, can I turn it into something that people like me would buy? And by doing so, tell the story of the enormous amount of stuff that we throw away and how little of it gets recycled.
Right.
So it's like, let's try. But I knew that I probably needed some education on this if I wanted to do it. So I didn't even tell my husband about this. I told him when I got a place, but I got a place at Cambridge to do this program called Sustainable Value Chains. It's an amazing program. It's a year-long course to give myself this scientific framework of sustainability and kind of the relationship with climate change, with circularity, like all the theory
Did you write like an independent study project or something at the end?
did.
Like
You know
a
what-
dissertation?
You know what it was on?
No.
Blockchain for transparency.
Hey, what
No,
does that
but-
mean?
What is that? So it's using blockchain technology, which I also didn't know much about, for transparency of supply chains, which I also didn't know much about. So for me, the learning curve was like insane. It was so, you know, and I still had a full-time job, and I still had 2 children, and I was still on like multiple boards and mentor of this social enterprise.
How did you do it?
Not very well is the answer. It was like I almost crumbled. Like there was a moment when I was talking to my husband, and I think it was like, I think I'm nearing a burnout. And he's like, well, you have to drop something. Like, let's drop. Let's review what you have on your plate right now. And you should, like, you need to drop something. And he said, well, maybe you drop this rubbish thing that you're doing, like this waste stuff. And you know what? I remember this conversation so clearly because I said, this is the one thing I cannot drop. Like, this is the one thing that I just want to keep
That is
going.
the purpose why I'm doing all
It's
of this.
obviously
Yes.
like not giving me any money. It's a lot of my time that I was investing.
But what were you doing related to the rubbish stuff at the time? So you're studying at Cambridge, you're a mom of 2 beautiful girls with your
Yeah.
lovely Dutch husband, Joris. You are on board of change.org. What was the rubbish thing? Like you were campaigning?
I thought, okay, let's see are there people in the world working with recycled materials? Who's turning waste into something cool that I can turn it into a product? Like, what are those material streams?
So it's a research.
So it was research, but very practical because I was getting like dozens, if not hundreds, of little parcels coming to my house from around the world with like recycled plastic, recycled brass, recycled leather, recycled
And
cotton.
where is it all being recycled? Like if it's coming...
Around the world, like I just got in touch with anyone who was like universities doing some research, some startups that are making, I don't know, a leather alternative from fruit waste. Like there are some people around the world that are experimenting with waste, and there are many more of them now.
And what was the most unusual thing, like recycled thing that you like?
At the time, it was like one kind of pile where there's solid materials like the plastics, the metals. And this stuff, I looked at it, I was like, okay, that requires me having like a degree in engineering really to turn it into something. And I didn't plan to get a degree in engineering. The other pile was more softer, kind of textile-y types of materials. And I was like, okay, maybe I can learn how to design bags. Because I didn't want to go into clothes. And not really, I wasn't like into bags to begin with, which is quite ironic that I now run an accessories company. But I thought, okay, I'm going to go to London College of Fashion. They have a bag design course. I signed up the same day when I realized, I looked at this pile, I was like, maybe I can make a bag. And again, it's quite funny.
You signed up the same day. Is it so easy?
It's just a 6-week course, 6 Saturdays. I mean, designing bags is not rocket science, okay? We can establish that now. So I was like, okay, let me do this course, and hopefully by the end of the course, I'd be able to design a bag. And I did.
But you said that you've been making things with your hands all your life. Like, what is it? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Something tactile? Like, what was it that you?
I
were
think
making?
it was to counterbalance my work in the media, or like it was like I was always doing silversmithing courses, learning how to make jewelry, or basketry, or pottery. Like, I was always making stuff. I was like, when I was at school, I was constantly sewing, and that's actually quite interesting and something I only realized much later, that I was so interested in fashion design as a teenager that I almost went into to study fashion. But I was quite good at school, and all my teachers and my parents, my mom and all, they were like,
Lawyer.
no, like you need to do something with your brain, not with your hands. So I did linguistics and stuff.
So interesting. So
And then 25 years later,
you're back to making things. So as a girl, you already had kind of disposition towards. It was your true kind of. It was your passion, and And you're coming back to it after 25 years?
I made all my clothes as a teenager. Like I would sew everything. I made like shirt. I can't sew anymore. Like I'm really not. I've lost all this. But like I made trousers with like a belt. You know, like I could sew, and I
Wow.
really enjoyed this. And I always loved like color and design and textures. So it's always been a thing. But my work was so detached from this. It was,
Of course,
you know, it was news, and then it was campaigning. So it had nothing to do with physical stuff. And I always really liked some
So when you did this 6-week course, did it feel like, I don't know, coming home? Like, did you rediscover that feeling? Did you have that connection with yourself where you were like, I'm enjoying this, or not really?
But it kind of felt like a continuation of my, all of those hobbies that I've always had. You know, it was the continuation of that silversmithing journey. But what was the new dimension that had was that I now knew that I was going to do something with waste. And that was kind of my campaigning hat. That was my personal passion. That was my media background. And
Everything
my
comes
kind of
together.
design and physical product.
How
All of this coming
exciting.
together. And it just felt like, wow, this could be cool. Like this could be. And I was, you know, I was in my late 30s.
So you've
And-
got these recycled materials that
Yeah.
have been was sent to you to your London home from different parts of the world. You're going through it thinking this is too hard, too solid. This might work. You're doing the course on design of the bags, and then what happened?
While at Cambridge, I learned a very important thing. I realized that reused materials that have been something else before is not just a cute story. It has a direct link with climate change. So if you look at any physical product, you know, this cup or the table or anything you see around you that is not a tree, that is not naturally grown, everything has a carbon footprint, right? So the carbon footprint is direct link to climate change. So greenhouse gases create what is now, you know, the climate crisis. The majority of that carbon footprint comes from using virgin materials, so from extracting materials from the soil.
The majority
Of that carbon footprint comes from materials,
right?
right? Bear with me, I know it's technical.
No.
But so imagine a polyester shirt, right? To make polyester, it's oil, right? Polyester is oil. You extract oil, it's plastic.
So it's like
extract
sports clothing,
anything
usually
that is polyester.
made of polyester.
So you extract oil in a normal way, like a pump.
Yeah.
You turn it into plastic, you turn it into polyester, and that has a big carbon footprint, right? For cottons, for instance, you have to plant the cotton, grow the cotton, water the cotton for a long time, for several months. And that has, again, a lot of environmental
Yes.
footprint.
Because of the water that you
Well, everything. So you use electricity to pump the water out. You know, there's a lot of that. For leather, for instance, you have to grow the crops, to feed the cows, to grow all of that. Anyways, so in theory, I knew from my degree that if you remove all those new materials from the equation, the carbon footprint of every product should drop. So
you remove
all the virgin materials
Yeah.
and replace them with recycled. So if you make stuff from waste, then the carbon footprint drops dramatically. So it's much better to make products from waste for climate change. Like it's an established fact.
It's a fact. Okay.
It's a fact. As long as the recycling process doesn't take more energy, then. But also, it made sense on a level, you know, that we keep taking materials from the environment, making stuff, and then throwing things away. It's a very linear approach to design, and it's been the case globally since the Industrial Revolution. That's how we operate. We take, make, dispose of. Take, make, dispose of. Take, make, dispose of. So the main principle of circular economy is that you try to close this loop. Instead of a line, how do we make it into a circle? And our way of one of the ways of making it into a circle is making from waste. So you take from this pile, the stuff that we all throw away, and then turn it into new products. And ideally, It's a
Stop
continuous
extracting.
circle. Stop extracting, reuse what we have. Because I mean, quite depressing, but the amount of resources we have is really limited. We're really depleting them very fast as a population, and the population is growing. And we have enough, like we all have. There's enough stuff in the world to create all the furniture, all the clothing, all the everything that we need many times over.
Wow.
So why not reuse it rather than take it back? So there's like, okay, there's science behind it. Let's go. And then I made a bag, and I was like,
What was
okay.
your first bag that you made? And what was it made of?
Yeah.
Like,
So the first bag was,
made from, I guess.
it was quite a large tote. It was like the most practical tote in the universe. It was quite large. It had a separate laptop compartment because I always carry a laptop. It had like 7 pockets. All the zips were made from, the tapes were plastic bottles. The metal was recycled metal. The lining was recycled polyester made from plastic bottles. And the main material was recycled leather. So it's tannery leather waste milled into a powder and pressed together. So that was the first prototype. And then I was like, showed it to my friends, and they were like, I'd like one. Like, where can I buy one? And this was something I hadn't thought about, of course, because I only
So
got
you
it.
designed and you...
I designed it and I found someone
And
who
you
could make
actually,
it.
so you made that bag.
I found someone,
Done
a leather
who?
maker who could make it.
Right.
And then
Suddenly an interest from your friends.
And then I was like, okay, what do I do now? Because I didn't have like massive budgets to manufacture hundreds. And
Yeah.
I didn't think about that part, basically.
Right.
So
You were just driven to make something,
I was
to make
like,
a product.
Yeah, I think I wanted to make a point. Like, it's possible to make a really beautiful product with just entirely from waste. Not like this is a
Yeah.
recycled tiny
Part.
little detail. It's like the whole thing.
Recycled pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's how Bean London was born.
That's how Bean London was
So
born.
tell me, what is the story behind the name? Bean is because it's been used?
Yeah, and because it has been something else before. Like
Right.
every material we use has been something.
One more thing. How do you recycle leather? Like literally, there's like a ton of old leather jackets that nobody wants and they recycle. I mean, how do you...
No, so this particular material comes from the tannery stage. So when animal skins get processed, so when they're cleaned and, when you dye them, so that level, usually around 40% of the material is lost at that stage because it's all trimmed off, chopped off, and it's before it gets dyed or gets this shiny polish on it, or before all of that. So there's a technology that allows you to capture that leather that is not yet processed, mill it into a powder, and then by using 2 water jets, press it together.
It's incredible. It's like people,
Yeah.
there are people who are like thinking about all of this. 2 water jets. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
It's so cool.
Material innovation is such a fast moving process. And every year there's a better material and a better material and a better material. So what we used 5 years ago, now there's so much progress in this that we use better materials now.
A lot of the things that we're talking about, it somehow feels to me that it's more kind of relevant to the developed world. In the UK, you have a very strict recycling policy and it's been in place for many years. What about places like Georgia or the developing world? Like where there is no that consciousness about recycling, it exists, but it's not enforced.
Yeah.
There's no understanding of this kind of waste, or even like environmental, people are feeling environmental troubles because there have been tragic landslides. People died last year. So somehow it's closer to home, but still, like in places like Uzbekistan, where I come from, it's like plastic everywhere, those cups. And finally, coffee shops arrived in Uzbekistan as cups, plastics. What to do? Or is it going to be too late by the time all this knowledge arrives to?
I'm a big believer that it's like we should all be doing sustainability imperfectly rather than a handful of people doing something really, really well. I think there's always a place to start, and I mean not just recycling, but you know, in terms of kind of messaging and education, I mean, the whole idea behind my brand is let's tell this story, let's raise awareness of how you can make things better, how we can, and you know, as on a sort of consumer level, next time you're buying a product, make sure it's made well and it's made from more environmentally friendly materials. That's like an easy way to act, right?
So it lasts longer, and you're
We
not.
offer lifelong repairs, like all of that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's made from waste, and at the end of life, we make sure it's recycled properly, and etc. But I think people have ideas everywhere, and I've been to Impact Hub here in Tbilisi. There's so many people passionate about like doing something. I think supporting those young entrepreneurs, well, not necessarily very young because I wasn't very young when I started, but like giving support to people who want to make a difference. I think that's crucial. But it makes business sense. I went to a really lovely shop that makes leather shoes here in Tbilisi.
Yeah.
They will have offcuts, right? It's about them or someone else thinking, what can we do with these offcuts? We can sell them to someone else. Instead of like throwing that away, what can we do? Because there's value in this. We're doing this project at the moment. We're discussing a project with Tate, the museum in London. They have a waste stream of lots of textiles. They're all mixed textiles. And they're like, can you come up with a solution for this? So we're turning that, or we're just pitched to turn that into products for their shop, but also furniture for their shop. Like there are technologies available now where you can turn your waste stream, something that you as a business normally throw away, into something you would be buying anyways. It's cheaper. It's also cheaper.
Really?
It's better, but it's also cheaper. Because otherwise you pay for your waste to be removed and processed if you are a more or less responsible business. And then you're paying to buy that furniture or to buy these products that you need. Whereas what we're trying to do is like, hey, can we close that loop within the same organization?
So I mean, it's really fascinating. I mean, the clientele that you now have with your company. I mean, Tate Modern, everybody knows this museum. So what they want to do is they have a lot of like textile materials. So what is the waste that they want to turn into?
Yeah, they
that
have,
you,
like,
your
you know,
company
a bit
offered
of
to.
uniforms and but every company, every like restaurant chain will have uniforms that are discarded. We work with KLM uniforms. We work with IKEA uniforms.
What do you do with them?
So they're turned into felt in the Netherlands, and then we use that felt to make products.
How can you turn like what, cotton, or is it mixed fabric?
Mixed fabrics, yeah. So they're particularly difficult to process. So then you can only turn them into felt or that sort of material. So it's like, if you think of any business, like here in Georgia or in Uzbekistan, most businesses, unless they're purely digital, will have some sort of waste stream. And it's just about creatively figuring out, like, how can we approach this in a fun way so that it's not all like doom and gloom. I mean, I can do doom and gloom, but I think we all agree that there's enough doom and gloom, especially in the kind of climate crisis agenda, that like, let's think creatively about those solutions. Like, let's make it fun. And if I have to make a bright green handbag to deliver a message on circularity and climate change, I'm going to do that, you know, and I'm going to sell hundreds of those handbags to people to get them thinking about what they can do on an individual level. And I think we should just start using all the resources we have, as in, like, let's keep it exciting, and that's how we probably can keep people engaged. So for Tate, we're launching a line for them in September in their shop. And that's made. We're making card holders. What else are we making? Laptop cases and totes branded with Tate logo. But every design, not only is made from recycled materials, but it also has a piece of the banner, the used banner from the building. You know, they use the banners with like this exhibition announcement. We take it down and we integrate that into the design. We did the same for DHL and Formula One.
Who is actually doing the design? Is it you?
It used to be me, but
now
I'm glad it's not me.
Why? You were good at it, looking at your products.
Yeah. Come on. No, so we now have a designer, Kozi. She's incredible. She used to be...
What's her name?
Kozi. She used to be head of accessories at Kenzo. Like, she's quite a...
experience.
She's a very special. She was at Burberry before. Was a cancer for years, and then she works for us.
So
now.
what attracted her to work for? Is it also the same
The
kind of
fashion
values?
industry is messed up. Like, you see a lot of really good people completely burned out by this relentless churning out collections, making, selling, always focusing just on profit. And they're smart people. They also have values. They have, some of them have children that they want to be proud of the work that they do. You don't want to come home as like, oh yeah, just like created 2,000 Zara t-shirts today that will end up somewhere in Ghana in a landfill.
Yeah.
So there's a huge exodus at the moment of people especially from senior jobs, who want to apply their knowledge and skills to something a bit more meaningful or much more meaningful. To give you an example, I mean, we're a startup. We pay very little. Like, seriously, we're nowhere near market rate. The last job opening we had 458 applications.
Oh, cool. What was the job and who got it?
Well, I'll give you Kozi's example. So
Yes.
she applied for a job that she really couldn't do at all. She applied for a production manager job, and she was a designer. But she's like, I thought I'd apply anyways because I just thought maybe there's something. And then I created a designer job for her.
Amazing.
But
So
like,
she came
I
at the
think
right
there are a
time.
lot of incredible people around the world in the fashion industry who could make a big difference if they apply their skill sets to problem solving. Like, it's this kind of problem solving way of thinking that I think gets me really excited. Like, okay, where's the problem? Can we do anything? Can we do something fun around it? Can we also raise awareness of the problem? And can we create something that will self-fund the solution? I think that's been my approach.
There are many things I like about your story, the story of your business, but I guess what really resonates with me is how you actually followed, that conversation when you were having with your husband, and he said, maybe you can dump
this one."
rubbish, out of so many things that you were doing at the time. And you followed your instinct, your passion, and how it all worked out beautifully with all these awards that your company has been getting as the most sustainable company, or what are the name a few?
We got a bunch of awards. We got quite a few sustainability awards. We also got named by British Vogue one of the most innovative fashion companies in the world, which was quite funny because we were a company of 2 people at the time.
Wow.
Which tells you more about the industry than about us. I don't think we're doing something like super interesting. We do now probably, but it's more, I think, a sign of the industry.
Is there more competition now for like your company? Are there more and more startups or other companies that are taking sustainability as the driving kind of force?
That's amazing, absolutely. But there's also a lot of really cool material innovation that we work in tandem with now. There are people going, okay, can we turn that waste stream into this material? And then they approach us or we approach them and we're like, okay, let's now create a product out of it. There's more and more companies doing something in sustainability for sure. I think every company should be doing something, and I think that's amazing. There are a lot of material innovators that come up with new materials, and then we collaborate on really shifting that narrative of how we make stuff. But it's also in design in general. It's not just fashion, right? I was just speaking at the Design Council in the UK last week. Their main focus is now circularity. They're like, how can we, what we've been doing for a long time. And they were like, you guys are one of the pioneers of, you've been doing this for years now. So I think it's all kind of, let's rethink how stuff is made in general in a fun, creative way. And it should
There are so many opportunities.
There's so many opportunities. There's so much waste, and there's so many things that we all kind of need and love, and we probably all love good design. So it's all about just kind of that problem-solving approach, and then it will make a difference. It's not going to solve all our problems. It's not going to.
But at least you're doing something, and you're not like sitting and thinking, that's it, like climate change, we're going to die. Of course, probably will.
We can all do something.
We can do something.
Yeah.
before that happens.
Even
I
if
don't know.
it's just
What kind of
buying a
conclusion
cute
is that?
handbag,
Yes.
that is also doing something. Yeah.
Genia, I must tell you that yes, it's been like 20 years ago that we worked together for the BBC, but your energy, your positive, fantastic energy remains the same.
Oh, I love you.
And thank you so much. I'm going to give you a hug. Thank you so much. And all the best to Beam London.
Thanks for having me.
Please subscribe and like The Ramesh Show wherever you're watching or listening.